15 years ago, my father looked me in the eyes during one of the hardest moments of my life and said words I would never forget: "You don't deserve my help, Emily. You made your choices. Now live with them." I was 18 years old, sitting at our family's dining table in our modest suburban home outside Boston, clutching an acceptance letter from MIT. My hands were trembling, not from excitement, but from the terror of what I was about to ask. I had worked tirelessly throughout high school, maintaining a perfect GPA while taking advanced placement courses, participating in robotics competitions, and teaching myself multiple programming languages. My father, David Chen, had always been a practical man. He had immigrated from Taiwan with nothing but a suitcase and a dream, built a successful accounting practice through sheer determination, and believed that the only path to security was through traditional, stable careers. Medicine, law, engineering, these were respectable. Computer science? That was a hobby. Technology? A passing fad. "Dad, I need your help," I had begun, my voice barely above a whisper. "I got into MIT's computer science program. It's one of the best in the world. But the financial aid package isn't enough to cover everything. I need you to co-sign a small loan with me, just to get through the first year. I promise I'll pay it back. I'll work, I'll apply for scholarships, He hadn't let me finish. His chopsticks stopped midair, and he set them down with deliberate slowness. The silence that followed was suffocating. My mother, Maylin, a gentle woman who worked as a medical assistant, looked between us with worried eyes. My younger brother, Michael, the golden child who was already following in Dad's footsteps with his business major, pretended to be absorbed in his phone. "You don't deserve my help," my father repeated, his voice cold and final. "You made your choices. Now live with them." I remember the tears that burned behind my eyes, the lump in my throat that made it impossible to speak. I had spent countless hours applying to scholarships, winning coding competitions, building a portfolio that would make seasoned developers envious. I had done everything right. And yet, in his eyes, I was still a disappointment. "Tech is a bubble, Emily," he continued, his tone softening slightly but still carrying the weight of absolute authority. "I've seen too many people chase these fantasies and end up with nothing. Get a real degree. Something stable. Accounting, like me. Or nursing, that's good for women. Something you can fall back on. Something you can fall back on." The words cut deeper than any insult. He saw my dreams as something frivolous, something that needed a safety net. He didn't understand that I wasn't looking for something to fall back on, I was looking for something to soar toward. "David," my mother tried to interject quietly, "maybe we could at least discuss." "No," he said firmly. "She needs to learn responsibility. I didn't have anyone holding my hand when I came to this country. I worked 3 jobs, slept on a friend's floor, and built my business from nothing. If she wants this so badly, she can figure it out herself." That moment marked the beginning of a rift that would define the next decade and a half of my life. I walked away from that table with tears streaming down my face, but I also walked away with something else, a burning determination that would carry me through the darkest nights. College was supposed to be the best time of my life. Instead, it became a crucible that forged me into someone my father never expected. I enrolled at MIT that fall, determined to make it work. The financial aid package covered my tuition, but everything else, housing, books, food, transportation, was up to me. I arrived on campus with 2 suitcases, a laptop, and a fire in my soul. My roommate, Sarah, came from a wealthy family and had everything provided for her. She would later tell me that she had never met anyone as driven as I was, working through sickness and exhaustion, never complaining, always pushing forward. I worked 3 jobs simultaneously. During the day, I worked as a research assistant for one of the computer science professors, helping with data analysis and coding projects. In the evenings, I waited tables at a nearby restaurant, balancing plates and trying not to drop them while my brain was still processing complex algorithms from class. On weekends, I tutored high school students in math and science, often traveling across the city using public transportation that added hours to my day. Sleep became a luxury I couldn't afford. I slept 4 hours a night, sometimes less, powering through on cheap coffee and sheer willpower. My diet consisted of instant noodles, peanut butter sandwiches, and whatever leftovers I could bring home from the restaurant. I lost 15 pounds during my first semester. My hair started thinning from stress. I developed dark circles under my eyes that no amount of concealer could hide. There were nights I sat on the floor of my cramped dorm room, surrounded by textbooks and empty ramen cups, wondering if my father was right. Maybe I didn't deserve help. Maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Maybe I was just a foolish girl chasing an impossible dream. I remember one particularly dark night in November of my freshman year. It was freezing cold, and I had just finished a 10-hour shift at the restaurant. My feet ached, my back hurt, and I had a midterm exam in the morning that I hadn't had time to study for properly. I sat on my bed, pulled out my phone, and called home. My mother answered, her voice warm with concern. "Emily? Is everything okay? You sound tired." "I'm fine, Mom," I lied. "Just wanted to hear your voice." She told me about her week, about my father's latest business success, about Michael's new internship. She asked if I needed anything. I wanted to tell her the truth, that I was barely surviving, that I had been eating instant noodles for 3 days straight, that I was so tired I could barely think, but I knew it would only worry her. She was already stressed enough, trying to mediate between me and my father. "Your father asks about you," she said softly. I knew it was a lie. He never asked about me. He had made his position clear. But I appreciated the effort. "Tell him I'm doing well," I said. "Tell him I'm making him proud." I hung up and cried. I let myself cry for exactly 5 minutes, and then I wiped my face, opened my laptop, and started studying. That was the pattern of my college years, brief moments of vulnerability followed by relentless pushing forward. The winter of my sophomore year nearly broke me. I had picked up a 4th job at a warehouse, doing inventory management on overnight shifts. The work was mind-numbing and physically demanding, but it paid better than waiting tables. The warehouse was unheated, and during the particularly brutal Boston winter, I would work in freezing temperatures, my fingers numb from typing on the cold keyboard, my breath forming small clouds in the air. One night, I started feeling feverish. I couldn't afford to miss work, so I pushed through, convincing myself it was just exhaustion. By the end of my shift, I was shivering uncontrollably and coughing so hard I could barely breathe. A coworker drove me to the emergency room, where I was diagnosed with pneumonia. They kept me overnight and told me I needed at least a week of rest. I couldn't afford a week of rest. I had exams coming up, projects due, and bills to pay. I called home from the hospital, hoping against hope that my father might finally show some compassion. He answered, and I could hear the impatience in his voice as I explained what had happened. "You need to learn to take care of yourself, Emily," he said. "This is what real life is like. You can't expect people to rescue you. You're a grown woman now." He didn't offer to help with the medical bills. He didn't ask if I needed anything. He just delivered that cold lecture and hung up. My mother called back later, her voice filled with worry, but she couldn't do much either. She slipped me a few $100s secretly during a visit, but the hospital bill was over $3,000. I discharged myself early, against medical advice, and went back to work in classes. I dragged myself through the rest of the semester, coughing through lectures, barely keeping my eyes open during night shifts. My grade slipped slightly, from a 4.0 to a 3.8, but I was still among the top of my class. The isolation was crushing. I had friends, but no one who truly understood the weight of carrying everything alone. I couldn't explain to them why I couldn't go to parties or social events, why I always looked exhausted, why I never had money to spare. I was ashamed of my situation, ashamed that my own father refused to help me. I journaled my anger late at night, pouring all my frustrations onto the page. I wrote letters to my father that I would never send, pouring out all the hurt and resentment I couldn't express. Those journals became my lifeline, the only place where I could be truly honest about how I was feeling. I also channeled my pain into my work. Every code assignment I completed, every project I built, every algorithm I mastered, it was all proof that I didn't need his help. I wasn't just surviving, I was excelling. My professors noticed my dedication and began offering me opportunities. I was invited to join advanced research projects, contribute to papers, and even present at conferences. My mother came to my graduation alone. My father said he had important meetings that couldn't be rescheduled. My brother didn't bother coming either. He was busy with his internship at his father's firm, already on track for the life our father had planned for him. I walked across the stage, my MIT diploma in hand, summa cum laude, with multiple job offers already waiting. I had done it. I had made it through the impossible. And I had done it without my father's help, despite his predictions of failure. After graduation, I accepted a position at a prestigious tech company in Silicon Valley, making more money than I had ever imagined. I moved to California, rented a small apartment in San Francisco, and began the next chapter of my life. I worked hard, learning everything I could about the industry, making connections, building my network. But I never forgot the nights I struggled alone, the hunger, the exhaustion, the feeling of being completely abandoned by the person who was supposed to protect me. I started working on my own projects at night, the same way I had in college. I built small apps, experimented with new technologies, and began developing a platform that would eventually change everything. I had an idea for a software solution that would revolutionize how small manufacturing businesses managed their supply chains. The product would be intuitive, affordable, and powerful, exactly the kind of tool that could help companies like the ones my father's firm worked with. I pitched the idea to my father once, hoping to bridge the gap between us. He was visiting San Francisco for a conference, and I invited him to lunch. I explained the concept, showed him a prototype, and asked for his advice. He waved it off dismissively. "Stick to your job, Emily. You're making good money now. Don't get ideas above your station." It was the same dismissive attitude he had always shown. He couldn't see the potential in what I was building, couldn't conceive that his daughter might be capable of something extraordinary. I smiled, nodded, and filed away the rejection as fuel for the fire already burning inside me. The next 8 years became a masterclass in grinding. I left my stable job to focus full-time on my startup. It was terrifying. I had worked so hard to get where I was, and I was risking everything on an unproven idea. I lived on savings, cutting my expenses to the absolute minimum. I moved to a cheaper apartment, stopped eating out, and returned to my college diet of ramen and peanut butter. I pitched to investors constantly, facing rejection after rejection. Most venture capitalists told me my idea was too niche, too risky, that I should stick to something safer. I faced near bankruptcy twice, forced to make difficult decisions about where to allocate my limited resources. There were months when I didn't pay myself, using every penny to keep the company afloat. But slowly, the product gained traction. My software helped small manufacturers streamline their operations, reduce waste, and increase profits. Word spread through industry networks. The first big client was a family-owned factory in the Midwest that was struggling to compete with larger competitors. They implemented my software, saw immediate improvements, and became one of my biggest advocates. Then came a major contract with a national distributor, followed by another, and another. I named my company Chen Dynamics, not to honor my father, but to remind myself every day of why I was doing this. The company was mine, built with my hands, my mind, my determination. It was my legacy, and I would make it something extraordinary. By age 30, Chen Dynamics had grown to 85 employees and $14 million in annual revenue. We moved into a proper office, hired top talent, and began expanding our product offerings. I paid off my student loans and all the debt I had accumulated during the early years. I bought my mother a new house, a beautiful place with a garden she had always wanted. But I never forgot the nights I struggled alone. I never forgot the hunger, the exhaustion, the tears I cried into my pillow. I never forgot the sound of my father's voice telling me I didn't deserve his help. My father's career had plateaued. He was still a successful accountant, making a comfortable living, but he had stopped pushing for more. He talked about retirement, about slowing down, about enjoying the fruits of his labor. My brother, Michael, had followed in his footsteps and was now a manager at the firm, on track to eventually take over. He was successful by conventional standards, but he would never build anything of his own. The rift between my father and me had become a permanent feature of our family. We spoke rarely, and when we did, it was always awkward, always carrying the weight of unspoken words. He didn't understand what I had built, didn't appreciate the magnitude of my success. To him, I was still a girl chasing a fantasy, someone who had gotten lucky. But luck had nothing to do with it. The explosion of Chen Dynamics came faster than I could have anticipated. Our software had caught the attention of a major private equity firm that saw the potential for massive growth. They invested heavily, allowing us to expand rapidly. We developed new features, including AI-driven predictive maintenance that could anticipate equipment failures before they happened. The technology was revolutionary, and it caught the attention of major players across multiple industries. Revenue tripled in 18 months. We opened offices in 3 states, hired hundreds of new employees, and began making acquisitions of smaller competitors. The company was now valued at over $180 million. I was the founder and CEO, my name on patents, articles, and industry awards. Tech magazines wrote profiles about the self-made founder who beat the odds. But the achievement that meant the most to me was the construction of our new global headquarters in a revitalized industrial park not far from my hometown. The 12-story building was state-of-the-art, sustainable design, employee wellness center, innovation labs, everything a modern company could want. The opening ceremony was a huge deal. Local politicians, industry leaders, media, everyone wanted to be there. I invited my parents. My mother was overjoyed, proud beyond words. She had always believed in me, even when my father didn't. She had supported me in small ways, sending care packages, visiting when she could, offering quiet encouragement. My father was reluctant. He had never shown any interest in my career, had never visited any of my previous offices. But my mother begged him to come. "She's your daughter, David," she said. "You need to see what she's built." He finally agreed. The opening ceremony was everything I had dreamed. I stood on stage in a sharp suit, designed by a female tailor who had become one of my close friends, looking out at the crowd of hundreds. The energy was electric. People were buzzing with excitement about the building, the company, the future we were creating. When they introduced me as the founder and showed the revenue figures on the giant screen, numbers that dwarfed my father's entire career earnings, I scanned the audience until I found him. He was in the third row, sitting stiffly next to my mother. His face had gone pale. His mouth was slightly open, his eyes wide with shock. He stared at the screen, then at me, like he was seeing a stranger for the first time. The son he refused to help had built something so massive that his entire life's work looked like a small hobby in comparison. Except it wasn't a son, it was a daughter. After the ceremony, I found him in the private reception area. The crowd had thinned, and the staff was setting up for the evening gala. He was standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline. My mother was nearby, talking to some of the dignitaries. "Emily." His voice was quiet, almost broken. "This is all yours?" "Yes, Dad," I said, my voice steady despite the emotion swirling inside me. "Every line of code, every late night, every risk. The company you said I didn't deserve help to build." He turned to look at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something other than dismissal in his eyes. There was confusion, yes, and something that might have been shame. But there was also awe. I thought you were wasting your time," he said slowly. "I thought you'd fail like so many others. I didn't understand what you were building." "What you saw was a girl playing on computers," I said, echoing his words from so many years ago. "What I was building was an empire." He looked around at the employees milling about, at the sleek modern design, at all the signs of success and stability. He looked at the name on the wall, Chen Dynamics, and something in his expression shifted. "I was wrong, Emily," he said finally. "I thought I was teaching you strength. I thought that making you struggle would make you appreciate success more. Instead, I abandoned you when you needed me most." Tears were in his eyes now. Real ones. I had never seen my father cry before. "Your success, it makes everything I did look small. Like a hobby." I let the silence sit for a moment. Part of me wanted to embrace him, to finally have the father I had always wanted. But the scars were still there, the years of loneliness and rejection. I couldn't just erase all of that with one heartfelt apology. "I didn't build this to hurt you, Dad," I said. "I built it because you left me no choice but to prove I could. And I did, without you." He nodded slowly. "I'm proud of you, Emily." I should have said it years ago. I didn't hug him immediately. The pain was still too fresh. But I extended my hand, and he shook it. For me, that was a significant step. "Thank you for finally seeing me," I said. The family dynamic began to shift after that day. My brother, Michael, who had always been his father's favorite, started asking for my advice. He had followed the path our father had laid out for him, but he was starting to realize that there was more to life than the safe, predictable career his father had chosen. He wanted to branch out, to start something of his own, and he wanted my guidance. My mother cried happy tears and visited the new headquarters often, marveling at what I had built. She would walk through the halls, greeting employees, admiring the art on the walls, taking photos to send to her friends. She was the proudest mother in the world, and she made sure everyone knew it. My father retired early, surprising everyone. He sold his practice to a younger partner and began volunteering at a local tech education program for underprivileged kids. He told me it was inspired by watching me. He wanted to help other young people who might not have family support, who might be told their dreams were impossible. He started attending my speaking engagements, sitting in the front row and beaming with pride. At first, it felt strange, having him there after all those years of absence. But slowly, I began to accept it. We would never have the relationship I had once dreamed of, the father-daughter bond that I had craved as a child. Too much water under the bridge, too many wounds that would never fully heal. But we could build something new, something based on mutual respect. There are moments when the old pain still surfaces. Sometimes late at night, I think about the girl who sat on the floor of her dorm room, eating ramen and crying, wondering why her father didn't love her enough to help. I think about the pneumonia, the exhaustion, the crushing loneliness. I think about all the milestones he missed, all the years he wasted refusing to see who I really was. But the pain no longer controls me. It's become part of my story, a foundational element of who I am, but it doesn't define me. I've moved beyond it, built a life that transcends the rejection and the struggle. The biggest lesson from this journey is simple: when the person who is supposed to lift you up instead pushes you down, you have two choices: stay down or rise higher than they could ever imagine. I chose to rise. Success isn't about proving them wrong to their face every day. It's about becoming undeniable. It's about building something so substantial, so undeniably powerful, that they have no choice but to see you for who you truly are. It's about creating a life so extraordinary that it speaks for itself. I often reflect on the path that brought me here. The late nights in the warehouse, the pneumonia, the near bankruptcy, the countless rejections, all of it was necessary. The struggle shaped me, forged me into the person I needed to become. I don't wish those experiences on anyone else, but I also don't regret them. They made me resilient. They gave me perspective. They taught me that I could survive anything. And I did. Now, when young women come to me for advice, young women who have been told their dreams are too big, that technology is a man's world, that they should choose something safer, I tell them my story. I tell them about the father who said I didn't deserve his help. I tell them about the struggle, the loneliness, the incredible triumph. I tell them that the world is full of people who will try to limit you, to define you, to tell you what you can't do. But the only person who gets to decide your limits is you. I've traveled around the world now, speaking at conferences and universities. I've met leaders of nations, CEOs of global corporations, pioneers in technology and innovation. I've been recognized as one of the most influential women in tech, featured on magazine covers, interviewed on major news networks. But the achievement that means the most to me is the legacy I'm building for other young women. Through the Chen Foundation, established with a significant portion of my personal wealth, I've funded scholarships, mentorship programs, and incubators for female entrepreneurs. We've helped hundreds of women launch their own companies, pursue careers in technology, and break through the barriers that once seemed insurmountable. I never wanted to be just a success story. I wanted to be a door opener. I wanted to be the person who made it easier for the next generation of women to pursue their dreams. My journey taught me that family isn't always about blood. It's about who shows up for you, who believes in you, who stands beside you when everything seems impossible. I build my own family now, a network of friends, mentors, colleagues, and supporters who are there for me in ways my biological family sometimes wasn't. They are my chosen family, and they have been instrumental in my success. At the same time, I've learned the importance of forgiveness. Not because my father deserved it, but because I deserved the peace that comes with letting go of anger. Holding on to resentment was like drinking poison and expecting my father to die. It only hurt me. Forgiving him didn't mean excusing what he did. It meant freeing myself from the burden of carrying that hurt. My father and I have built something new. It's not the relationship I once dreamed of, but it's real, and it's growing. He's become someone who asks about my life, who wants to know about my projects, who expresses genuine pride in my achievements. He still makes mistakes sometimes, still falls back into old patterns of dismissing my accomplishments in small ways. But I can see that he's trying, and that's more than I ever expected. My brother and I have become close. He left our father's firm and started his own business, a consulting company that helps small businesses with strategic planning. He comes to me for advice often, and we've built a genuine adult relationship. He's told me that watching my success inspired him to take risks, to pursue something that truly mattered to him rather than just following the path that was laid out for him. My mother remains my greatest champion. She visits often, stays for weeks at a time, and has become an unofficial ambassador for my company. She tells everyone she meets about her daughter, the CEO, and the pride in her voice never fails to bring tears to my eyes. I still think about the moment my father said I didn't deserve his help. The pain of that rejection has faded, but I'll never fully forget it. It's part of my story now, part of the narrative that shaped me. I think about the pneumonia, the exhaustion, the loneliness. I think about the girl who cried in her dorm room. I think about all the obstacles that seemed insurmountable at the time. And I think about the woman I've become, the CEO, the mentor, the leader, the daughter who proved everyone wrong. The journey was hard. It was brutal at times. But it was mine, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. When I stand on stage now, accepting awards or giving keynote speeches, I often think about the irony of it all. My father thought he was protecting me from failure by refusing to help. He thought he was teaching me responsibility. Instead, he gave me something more valuable, the determination to prove that I could succeed without him. I didn't need his help after all. I didn't need his approval, his support, or his validation. I needed to believe in myself, and I found that belief through struggle. That's the message I want to share with the world. You don't need anyone's permission to pursue your dreams. You don't need someone else's belief to succeed. The only person you need is yourself. If I could go back and talk to that 18-year-old girl, sitting at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes, hearing her father's rejection, I would tell her, "You're stronger than you know. You'll survive this, and you'll thrive." The people who dismiss you now will one day be forced to acknowledge your success. Your struggle will become your strength. Your pain will become your power. And one day, you'll stand on a stage, looking out at a building you built, a company you grew, a legacy you created, and you'll realize that you didn't need anyone's help after all. My name is Emily Chen, and I'm a self-made woman. I built an empire from nothing, fought for every step of the journey, and emerged stronger than anyone could have imagined. And the best part? I'm just getting started. The future holds even more possibilities. New technologies to develop, new companies to launch, new barriers to break down. I'm not done yet. I'll never be done. The drive that carried me through college, through the startup years, through all the struggles, it's still there, burning brighter than ever. There are so many young women out there who need to hear my story. Young women who are being told their dreams are too big, who are being dismissed by family members or teachers or society at large. Young women who need to see that someone like them can succeed against all odds. That's why I speak so publicly about my story. It's not about ego or self-promotion. It's about being visible, being a role model, showing the next generation that they can do it too. The tech industry, and the business world in general, still has massive gender disparities. Women are underrepresented in leadership positions, underfunded when they start companies, and often underestimated by colleagues and investors. My success isn't just a personal achievement, it's a challenge to the status quo. It's proof that women can lead, can innovate, can build billion-dollar companies. I've had to work twice as hard to be taken half as seriously. I've had to prove myself over and over, in ways that male founders rarely have to. I've been dismissed, patronized, and underestimated countless times. But I've also found incredible allies, mentors, and supporters who have helped me along the way. The journey of building Chen Dynamics has been the greatest challenge of my life, and the greatest triumph. There were moments I wanted to give up, moments when everything seemed impossible, moments when I questioned everything I had done. But I kept going. I kept pushing. I kept believing that I could build something important. And I did. Now, when I walk through the halls of our global headquarters, when I see the hundreds of employees working on projects that are changing industries, when I see the clients whose businesses have been transformed by our technology, I feel an overwhelming sense of pride. Not pride in myself, exactly, but pride in what we've built together, the company that started as a dream in a small apartment and grew into something I never could have imagined. The building itself is a symbol of that journey. 12 stories of glass and steel, sustainable design, employee wellness at its core. It's everything I wanted my company to be: progressive, innovative, and deeply committed to making the world better. It's a legacy that will last far beyond my time. I still have my small apartment, the one I lived in during the early startup days. I've thought about selling it, but I can't bring myself to. It's a reminder of where I started, the modest beginnings that make the success so sweet. When I need perspective, I go back there. I sit on the floor, like I did all those years ago, and I remember the hunger, the exhaustion, the fear. And then I remember the hope, the determination, the refusal to quit. That hope is what carried me through. The belief that I could build something important, that I could create a legacy, that I could make a difference in the world. It was never about proving my father wrong, it was about proving myself right. And I did. The story of my life is a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of self-belief, and the reality that family rejection doesn't have to define you. It's about rising above the people who try to hold you back and becoming the person you were always meant to be. I've learned that forgiveness is powerful, but it's also personal. You can forgive someone without forgetting what they did. You can move forward without erasing the past. My relationship with my father is better now, but it will never be perfect. There will always be scars from those early years, reminders of the hurt he caused. But that's okay. The scars are part of me now. They've made me who I am. I've also learned that success is never truly solo. I had help along the way, mentors who believed in me, friends who supported me, employees who dedicated themselves to the vision. My journey wasn't solitary, even when it felt that way. There were people who saw my potential and invested in it, people who helped me when I needed it most. That's why I'm so committed to mentorship now. I want to be the person for others that I needed during those difficult years. I want to open doors, provide opportunities, and help young women realize their own potential. The Chen Foundation has become one of the most important parts of my life. We've funded scholarships for hundreds of young women, supported startup incubators, and created mentorship programs that connect experienced professionals with aspiring entrepreneurs. Every success story we help create is a victory over the systems that try to hold women back. I've also become involved in policy advocacy, working to create more support for women in technology and business. I've testified before Congress, spoken at United Nations events, and collaborated with organizations around the world. It's a different kind of work than building a company, but it's equally important. My personal life has flourished too. I got married a few years ago to a wonderful woman named Rachel, who's a professor of computer science at a local university. We met at a conference, bonded over our shared passion for technology and education, and fell in love. She's been an incredible partner, supportive of my ambitions while also keeping me grounded. We adopted a daughter, a baby girl from China who we named May, after my mother. Watching her grow, seeing her curiosity about the world, I'm filled with hope for the future. She'll never have to face the rejection I faced. She'll know from the very beginning that she's loved unconditionally, that her dreams are valid, that she can achieve anything she sets her mind to. Sometimes I look at her and think about my own childhood, the years of feeling inadequate and unwanted. I'm determined to give her a different experience, to create a home filled with love and encouragement. My journey from rejection to success has taught me so much about resilience, determination, and the power of believing in yourself. I want to share those lessons with the world, to inspire others who might be facing similar struggles. That's why I'm telling my story so publicly. Not for fame or recognition, but because I know there are others out there who need to hear it. Others who have been told they can't succeed, who have been rejected by family, who are struggling alone. I want them to know that they can make it. The road might be harder than it should be. The obstacles might seem insurmountable. But they can overcome them. I did. Looking back on those early years, I'm filled with a complex mix of emotions: pain for the girl I was, pride for the woman I've become, hope for the future I'm building. The journey has been extraordinary, more than I could have ever imagined when I was sitting in my father's kitchen, hearing those devastating words. "You don't deserve my help." Those words shaped me. They pushed me. They made me who I am. And while I'll never be grateful for the pain they caused, I'm grateful for the person they helped me become. My story is one of betrayal and triumph, rejection and redemption. It's about a daughter who refused to be defined by her father's limitations, a woman who built an empire from nothing, and a leader who's opening doors for the next generation. It's not just my story anymore. It's part of a larger narrative about women's empowerment, breaking barriers, and creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed. And I'm not done yet. The next chapter of my journey is still being written. New challenges, new opportunities, new ways to make a difference. I'm excited for what's ahead, for the continued growth of Chen Dynamics, for the expansion of the foundation, for all the new ventures that are already taking shape in my mind. My father is in my life now, in a way he never was before. We have dinner together once a month, just the two of us. It's always a little awkward, always carrying the weight of our shared history. But we're trying. We're building something new, something that might not erase the past but at least acknowledges it. He's proud of me now, in a way that I always wanted him to be. He tells people about his daughter, the CEO, the woman who built a billion-dollar company from nothing. He shows off articles about me, brags about my achievements. It's not everything I once wanted, but it's something. My mother is still my greatest ally. She's become more assertive over the years, standing up to my father when he slips into his old patterns. She's involved in the foundation now, helping to select scholarship recipients and mentor young women.